All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the 2022 Monash University 3-minute thesis and the Visualise Your Thesis Final. I am your MC for the night. I'm Dr. Susan Carlin. And before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional owners of the land we are gathered on today. And I'd like to pay my respect to their elders, past and present. And also to anyone who's joining us from Zoom, I'd like to pay my respect to the elders of whatever lands you are joining us on as well. I am so happy to be here tonight. I've been part of the 3-minute thesis for about 500 years and I've watched it evolve. I remember in the beginning it was all in person, then we moved to all online, and now we're in a sort of a hybrid environment. So we get the best of both worlds. We get to have people in person. Those that can't join us, don't miss out. I know there are a lot of people watching from home as well. It's so good to have everyone here. So what is the 3-minute thesis? This is when we celebrate the exciting research of our HDR students when they're doing their PhD. For any of you here who are family or friends of someone doing a PhD, I know what it can feel like when you ask them, tell me about your research. And they sort of get that panicked look in their eyes as they wonder, how on earth do I condense 80,000 words for you? If they were to condense 80,000 words for you, it would take them 9 hours to tell you about their research. Our finalists tonight are going to tell us everything in 3 minutes. It is a phenomenal achievement. There is no way I could have done this when I was doing a PhD, so you all already have my immense respect. This competition is held the world over. It's not just a Monash thing, this is global, baby. And one winner from each faculty is here tonight, and we also have our finalists joining us from Monash University in Malaysia and IITB-Monash as well. We also have a wildcard joined, just like in the tennis, but with a bit less money. We've got a wildcard person joining us tonight as well, and so we're thrilled to have them competing. Now for the exciting bit, tonight's winner will take home a cool $5,000, which they will receive in the form of a novelty check. Nothing says professional academic research like a novelty check. We will also pay to send them to go to the Asia Pacific 3-minute thesis competition. So what financial crisis? Monash is obviously awash with money. It's a great reward. The runner-up will win $2,000, and the People's Choice Award winner, as voted by you at the end of the presentation, they will win a cool $500 plus get to know that they're the most popular person in the room. And that is courtesy of the Monash Graduation Association. All right, so what are the rules for tonight? The first rule that you should know about is that each participant is only allowed a single static PowerPoint slide. So they're not allowed any slide animations or transitions. They're not allowed movement of any type on their slide. And their slide has to be on the screen from the beginning of their oration. They're not allowed any additional electronic media, so they're not allowed any sound or video in their slide. They're not allowed any props, so they can't wear a costume, they can't have a guitar, they can't have lab equipment with them. It is just them. The presentations are limited to 3 minutes, and anyone who goes over 3 minutes is disqualified. And we sound a loud air horn. No, we don't. I've actually never had to do it once, so I'm sure we won't have to do it tonight. Their presentations also have to be spoken word only. So they're not allowed to rap, they're not allowed to sing, it can't be a poem. Their presentations have to commence from right here on the stage, and they are considered as beginning as soon as they start their presentation, either through speech or movement. So don't start flapping your hands wildly if you're not ready to begin, okay? Because the clock starts then. And also the decision of our adjudicating panel is final, but I do know they are open to bribes. The academics, they don't have much money, so you're welcome to go and bribe any of our judging panel, who I would now like to introduce. So our first judge on the panel is Professor Nellie Georgiou Christianis. She is the Pro-Vice-Chancellor Research Training and Chair of the Graduate Research Committee, so she knows a lot about research. Nellie is responsible for leading and shaping the graduate research training agenda here at Monash University. Our next judge is Professor Alison Ross. Professor Alison Ross is the Academic Director Research in the Office of the Deputy Vice-Chancellor Research. She's previously held an ARC Future Fellowship. In her career to date, she has supervised more than 40 HDR theses to completion and has been awarded the Dean's Prize for Excellence in HDR Supervision. So you know what to be looking for with our contestants tonight. Our next judge is Professor Mike Ryan. Professor Ryan is the Pro-Vice-Chancellor Research at Monash University, where he is responsible for leading and supporting Monash's current and future research agenda, fostering excellence and collaboration and promoting Monash's research capabilities, global reputation and profile. And our final judge is Dr. Nurin Vees, and as the Director for Research and Collections at Museums Victoria and a Monash alumna, Dr. Nurin Vees has expert knowledge of science and the scientific environment with an established reputation in audiences and public communication. So let's have a big round of applause for our judging panel. All right, now we are about to begin. All our competitors can see your timer up the back. And can I ask you a favour as an audience? I want you to understand how truly terrifying what they're about to do is. This is hard. They are nervous. They're so worried that they're going to stumble or forget their words. They feel the weight of their faculties on their shoulders. So can I ask, please, as they look out at you, give them a really warm, supportive, encouraging face. Sometimes we can have resting, grumpy face. Try to really put on that positive, supportive, encouraging face. It will mean so much to them. All right, so without further ado, I will now introduce our very first competitor, which is Ilianna Ginnis from Monash Art, Design and Architecture, who is going to tell us all about communication access in design practice.
This is a picture of me and my younger sister, Michelle. She's 16 and has a severe intellectual disability. Intellectual disability refers to a group of diverse neurological conditions which affect the brain in its development and makes basic everyday tasks such as eating, bathing, and getting dressed very difficult to do. It also leads to challenges with speech and language. Therefore, Michelle is unable to communicate the way you and I do. Life hasn't been easy for my family. Due to circumstances beyond our control, I became Michelle's primary carer when I was only the age of 7. And I have since dedicated my life to better understanding her every need and desire, which has influenced my level of empathy towards her and the other 1.2 million Australians like her. Over the years, I've witnessed firsthand the challenges that Michelle faces in both public and private spaces during a range of programs and activities simply because someone is unable to understand the way she communicates. But what happens to someone when someone is not heard, seen, or even understood? It became clear to me almost immediately that people who are non-verbal with intellectual disabilities are not considered a part of the design process. Instead, spaces designed for non-verbal communicators are labelled as quiet spaces, marginalising this community further rather than integrating them into the communication needs. So in 2016, I began my career as a spatial practitioner, and I'm here today, 2 years into my PhD, motivated to change the way spaces are designed to accommodate for people like Michelle. To do this, I will use sensory ethnographic observation and interview families, speech pathologists, and speech pathologists of children living with an intellectual disability. I will also use intensive interactive therapy, a form of non-verbal communication which works one-on-one with the non-verbal communicator to establish boundaries, as well as exceed forms of communication beyond control. Therefore, space has the potential to grow in understanding people who are non-verbal. My PhD research aims to create and bridge the gaps of non-verbal communication. That is what I would want to give my younger sister, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you, Ilianna. Now, our judges only get 1 minute to frantically deliberate. That was such an impressive presentation. The first one off is always hard, and what important research Ilianna presented. I will wait till I get the all clear from the judges before we move on. Okay, all right, on to our second candidate. Annie Lua is here to tell us all about a novel anti-malarial.
The fight against COVID-19 has been 2.5 years and it feels like ages. But the fight against another deadly infectious disease has been millennia. Malaria, a bloodborne infection, is still responsible for 500,000 deaths every year. Among 5 species that can infect humans, Plasmodium falciparum parasites cause the most severe symptoms. To fight these vicious parasites, continuous efforts are spent on pest control, clinical therapy optimization, and the development of a vaccine. But now, these parasites are resistant against all the current drugs available. We are in urgent need for novel drugs that are safe for humans and potent against resistant parasites. At MIPS, Bistrazine is being developed as a novel anti-malaria. A few milligrams of this compound can clear a malaria infection in mice within 3 minutes or 3 days. It is 1,000 times less toxic against human cells, plus it doesn't share resistance with any current drugs available. Sounds perfect, but there's one problem. The Bistrazines turned out to be poorly stable. Now here's the thing. A drug must bind to its target to exhibit its pharmacological response. How is it possible for the Bistrazines to disappear fast while still having such a good potency? Could the parent compounds be the Trojan horse which smuggles the active metabolites into the parasites? Or could the Bistrazines simply be a suicide squad, eliminate the parasites in the flesh and sacrifice themselves in honor? And when we come back to the most fundamental question, how exactly do they kill parasites? My project aims to answer all these questions by investigating the interaction between the malaria parasites and the Bistrazines. Well, you see, this interaction is bidirectional, so we're approaching it from both sides of the story. First, to understand how the parasites affect Bistrazines, we treated 3 representative compounds against different number of parasites and observed how much drug remained. We found that the parasites accelerated the breakdown of Bistrazines, so now we're trying to find out if there are any Greeks hiding in the Trojan horse. Second, we want to understand how the Bistrazines kill parasites. For example, what parasite proteins do they target? What biological pathways they perturb? We have an excellent radar system built with advanced instruments and technology, which allows us to monitor the changes in parasite proteins upon the drug treatment. Hence, we can understand where the drugs are attacking. If we can figure out the interaction between the malaria parasites and the Bistrazines, we can design a range of potent and safe compounds that will save one's life from malaria in the future. Let's hope the Bistrazines will be the next rising star in the fight against malaria. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That had everything. It had Trojan horses, suicide squads, mice, hiding Greeks. That was a lot packed into 3 minutes. Okay, let's wait to get the all clear from our judging panel. Third candidate now from the School of Business and Economics is Michelle Escobar, who is talking to us about her research on the effects of heat on economic preferences and cognition.
How many of you have gone to the supermarket with an empty stomach? Please raise your hand. How many of you ended buying a lot of junk food? Well, my thesis argues that heat leads to a similar outcome as hunger. Poor choices. You see, our brain is the most heat-sensitive organ in our body. During a heat wave, long before our heart and lungs give up, our brain will start to fail. That looks a lot subtler than it sounds. As temperatures rise, so does our likelihood of making suboptimal decisions. How do I know this? I'm a PhD candidate in health economics. During the past 3 years, I've been studying how temperature affects the economic preferences that shape our decision-making, our risk aversion, impatience, and rationality. My work combines NASA data with large surveys of the Indonesian population that track the preferences and cognition of the same people over many, many years. This allows us to measure changes in preferences in response to changes in temperature. Thanks to this natural experiment, I can now give you the answer. As nighttime temperatures rise above 21 degrees, our math skills quickly start to decline the following day. That dusty old math knowledge is actually critical to making intertemporal and risk-related decisions, but also to thinking rationally. As a result of that declining math skills, each additional degree of midnight temperature leads to a 3.2% increase in irrational behavior and a 1.5% increase in impatience. That is equivalent to 30 and 70% of the gender gaps in these outcomes. But why should you even care about these? Well, I'm here to tell you that you should care a lot. Decades of research show that a level of risk aversion is a great predictor for our likelihood of becoming entrepreneurs. Our level of impatience can predict whether or not we will have savings and our likelihood of pursuing an additional year of education. Think about it. None of us would be here doing a PhD if we were supremely impatient. If we bring climate change into this conversation, suddenly the implications of these become much more serious. More frequent and intense heat will not only mean less optimal decision-making, it also means that those with a limited ability to adapt will have it much worse. This is a fast-approaching train, and as researchers, we have a big task ahead to address this previously unknown cost of climate change. But the effort is necessary. After all, what are we but the sum of our choices? Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And what I took from your research is that I cannot be blamed when I buy a lot of junk food when it's hot, and also that it would be a human rights abuse for the university to hold exams in hot weather. So I think we can all take that very important research away. No, but you might remember she actually said that it depends how hot it is the night before. So it's how they sleep. So, see, I'm already doing your work for you, Michelle. All right, our next candidate from the Faculty of Law is Dan Gilbert, here to talk to us about his research on vanishing libraries, failing markets, and the future of the book.
As I'm sure you've gathered from the bottom of your emails, we live in an interesting and uncertain time at the moment. It's a time that demands change far in excess of the sort of tinkering around the edges we've seen in the past. For some, That means a shift away from the dominant, the capitalist mode of production towards a communist mode of production, towards a more collective action, more global harmony and peace. To others, it's a shift in the other direction, away from the bureaucracy and red tape of government and towards a work fast and break things kind of mentality. For me, I just think about libraries. Maybe that makes me basic. But maybe the library isn't such a basic space. Maybe it's one of the most radical spaces we have and have ever had. The history of the library goes back not just a couple of thousand years to the Library of Alexandria, which is typically pointed to when we talk about libraries, but up to 5,000 years we have evidence of libraries existing. Libraries go back as far as the records we have of the written word. They seem to go hand in hand. But the Library of Alexandria, which is often held up on a pedestal as one of the primary examples of library greatness, is nothing compared to the institution of the public library today. Libraries, in fact, up until the 19th century, were typically nothing like the institutions we see today. Books were held on chains and were unable to be taken away. The circulation rates were lower. They were not available across communities. In fact, they were segmented across different forms of establishments, some of them private, some of them commercial, some of them national, but none of them unified. The library of today is a magnificent achievement. It's one of the few places you can go and spend the entire day without spending $1. In my research, I look at something called lending rights, which are payments that are made to authors for the use of their works in libraries. They're often seen as an antagonist to copyright, and libraries, as a correlative, are also seen as an antagonist to the book trade. And in some nations, income from lending rights is beginning to exceed income from market sources like copyright. How does this work? Well, in short, the government manages a pot of money. In Australia, it's like $22 million. And then the library tracks its loans or the number of books on shelves. Then money is distributed according to either the reading preferences of the public or according to the number of books on those shelves. This disaggregated distribution of money is substantially different.
Thank you, Dan. Excellent work, excellent effort. And I loved the image of library books being on chains, and I wondered if perhaps I wouldn't have quite so many library fines if I had my own books on chains and wasn't able to take them out. All right, we'll give our judges a minute. Okay, our next candidate from the Faculty of Engineering is Sophie Armstrong, here to tell us about her research in flexible implants for healthy hearts.
So I have a confession. I'm doing a PhD in mechanical engineering, and I don't know anything about cars or engines or why I should be impressed by horsepower. But I do know how to spot a good car, because when these expensive cars are cruising through all this miserable Melbourne rain, they don't seem to get wet. Have you noticed? Any raindrop that dare touches that waxed car roof just rounds up and rolls off. Now I want you to picture the cells in your body as these water drops. Cells are tiny living building blocks made of 70% water. And when we introduce them to some medical implants, they just aren't attracted. Like rain on a sports car, they round up and roll off. And this is a common problem for flexible implants. Particularly in the cardiovascular system, we need these materials to bend and stretch with this dynamic environment. However, these materials are hydrophobic or water repelling, and it means that the surrounding tissue can't integrate with the device. Now you might ask, why do we need tissue integration? Well, let's say your friend John was waiting for a heart transplant, and in the meantime, they gave him a mechanical heart pump. Now, implanting this mechanical heart involves coring a piece of the left ventricle. So unless we can get cells to attach and migrate and close this wound, there's a chance of life-threatening bleeding or even blood clots causing stroke. But don't be alarmed, John will be just fine. We have some great engineers working on this. In fact, my PhD project is looking at surface treatments and topographies for flexible cardiovascular implants. I'm creating minuscule, microscopic mazes for these cells to promote cell attachment and migration. And we can study this by looking at the cell's primary cilia. This is like the car's antenna. It picks up signals from the surrounding environment. Additionally, chemical treatments modify the surface wettability, and therefore the cells, or those round raindrops, they flatten out and adhere, and we're left with a well-integrated, well-tolerated device. Now, these techniques will be used on a novel surgical attachment for mechanical hearts to help people like John. But cardiovascular disease doesn't discriminate, and it remains a leading cause of death globally. So my macro topographies will be accessible and achievable through 3D printing. That way they can help a wide range of patients. They can be used on a wide range of devices. Ultimately, we hope that this technology will lead to healthier implant recipients, more successful heart failure treatments, more time with loved ones. So here's to a future of healthy hearts for us all, maybe even a shiny red sports car. Thanks.
Thank you, Sophie. I love the audacity of you starting your speech with, honestly, I don't know what's going on in my faculty, but I'm still going to do a PhD in there. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Got the all clear from our judging panel. So on to our next candidate. From the Faculty of Science, we have Arman Pili, who is here to speak about his research entitled Aliens, Keep Them Out.
Stop, come with me and take your baggage. Out of the crowd of arriving passengers, I was taken aside by Melbourne Airport security for random inspection. But I knew what was happening. I knew that Australia hates aliens. Yeah, keep aliens out. Oh, no, not me, alien. Aliens. As in non-native animals and plants. You may not know it, but we often bring aliens with us. Aliens contaminate our food or hitchhike on our clothes, and they're just waiting for the perfect timing to escape in the wild. And in their new world, aliens multiply, and they spread far and wide, wreaking ecological havoc and impairing human societies. In Australia, billions of wildlife are killed by aliens, such as cats, foxes, and rats. And it's not just Australian wildlife suffering. You too are at risk. Have you heard about dengue or malaria? Well, you can get these deadly diseases from a single bite of an infected alien mosquito. But the alien problem, it's not just an Australian problem. It's a global problem costing world countries $250 billion every year. That's about the same cost of all natural disasters globally. So we need to manage alien invasions. But prevention is better than cure. We must prevent aliens from entering. But how? I developed a computer program, a preemptive tool accessible to all world countries for forecasting future alien invaders and invasions. My program downloads big data on biodiversity, climate, and globalization, and makes sense of this using advanced statistical algorithms and artificial intelligence to forecast what aliens will arrive, when, where, how, and how frequent will they arrive? Will they become invasive? And what impacts will they cause? With my program, world countries will finally have an idea of what alien problems are lurking in their horizon and how to keep aliens out. Nonetheless, the global alien problem, its root cause is us. So before you travel, sanitize yourself and your baggage from aliens. And if you're inspected, it might have been my program, informing border security that you have alien seeds hitchhiking on your boots, just like I did when I arrived in Melbourne 3 years ago.
Thank you, Arman. I feel like we might see you on the next episode of Border Security. Okay, we'll just wait for our judges to finish deliberating. Our next candidate from the Faculty of Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences is Rana Sawires, who is here to talk to us about her research into snotty with a chance of influenza.
It's certainly frosty out there with a cold front of influenza coming in from the east and making its way across the state over the next couple of days. Expect a deluge of febrile seizures in the north, a wave of asthma sweeping across the southeast, and a torrential flood of hepatitis along the western coast. Back to you, Jane. We check the weather forecast all the time. It's so important to know exactly what you're getting yourself into when you step outside. But shouldn't this be the same for your health? Shouldn't you know whether to stock up in anticipation of a particularly bad asthma season? Shouldn't doctors and policymakers know whether to expect a downpour of disease in their city? And that's why my PhD project is focused on creating a platform that does exactly that. And I've dubbed it Snotwatch. Just like meteorologists look at cold fronts and air pressure, we have a wealth of virus information at our fingertips, and it has the potential to revolutionize the way we approach healthcare. In Melbourne Southeast alone, we see nearly 20,000 virus tests every year, and each of these data points shows the dynamic map of the world around us because we can see the exact date and postcode that each event occurred. So then we not only understand virus circulation patterns across our city, by applying my Snotwatch platform, we can link them to clinical presentations of interest. And then we use that as the springboard for our weather forecast. How do we do this? We obtained independent datasets about virus circulation and clinical presentations and applied our novel statistical model to see how different viruses and different diseases have interacted in the past. When we looked at virus circulation in Melbourne Southeast over the last 10 years, we found that we could reliably predict the number of febrile seizures down to the month and the postcode just by knowing how prevalent human metapneumovirus, influenza, and RSV were. We also found that we could predict the number of chilblains presentations based on COVID diagnoses throughout the pandemic, and we could define which age groups were more likely to be affected. Next, we want to see whether adenovirus can predict hepatitis and whether influenza can forecast asthma. And so as we keep applying Snotwatch to all these different diseases, we'll create a model that is not only incredibly robust, but one that is remarkably versatile. But Snotwatch isn't just a peek into the past. It's blasting us into the future. Because with a framework as reliable as this one, we can take every cluster of coronavirus, every spike of sapovirus, and every peak of picornavirus to see which children are at a greater risk of febrile seizures this month, or in which age groups we need to increase flu vaccine uptake, or to which parts of the state we need to provide more resources in anticipation of an influx of asthma admissions. Okay, so we've got a reliable framework with incredible predictive power, but that's not all. What we really want to do is to put this tool in the hands of the public by creating a Snotwatch website that displays all of this information at the click of a button. Because our ultimate goal is to create a world where every clinician, every scientist, and everyday people are equipped to weather any storm that viruses bring.
Thank you, Rana. A very impressive and truly disgusting presentation. Okay, our next candidate from the Faculty of Information Technology is Ruchi Sembey, who is speaking about her research on humanising assessments with emerging technologies.
Emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and virtual reality are set to transform education, with billions of dollars pumping into these technologies worldwide in the next 5 to 10 years. Students use them in the form of chatbots, music recommendations based on listening habits, virtual reality experiences like Minecraft. But they are taught and assessed in universities using outdated assessment methods and tools that are not fit for purpose anymore. As a higher education teacher, it's not uncommon for students to ask me, "Hey Ruchi, is this going to be on the exam?" Assessments cause a huge deal of anxiety to students that shifts the focus from learning to studying to the test. I want to change it. My research explores creative ways of assessing student skills using emerging technologies, and my teacher in the loop approach makes assessments more human. Now, to do this, I systematically reviewed 3,038 research studies on emerging technologies in education from all around the world, and found though the technologies are not perfect yet, they are quite effective in providing instant feedback and adapting to learners' needs. So leveraging this, I plan to integrate the physical and the digital worlds and deploy virtual reality environments for skills assessment in 3 Australian universities. So how does that work? Let's picture this. A student, Misha, is anxious about her upcoming research presentation. She dons on a virtual reality headset, steps into an immersive virtual hall with an animated audience, say a simulation of the room we are in now, and practices her presentation multiple times in a safe environment without feeling judged. As she goes slow or really fast in her speech or stumbles, the system collects data with her consent. Her head and eye movements, her body language, heart rate, puts it through our intelligent program that analyzes speech patterns and tracks her progress over time. Now, with these deeper insights, her teacher, Ms. Carroll, provides personalized support to Misha, works one-on-one with her on her specific improvement areas, building her confidence and resilience for life. So as emerging technologies transform higher education, my research uses a teacher-in-the-loop approach that makes assessments more human, not less.
Thank you, Ruchi. Professor Mike, you heard the woman. Our systems are outdated. Someone needs to be fired. All right, our next candidate from the Faculty of Education, Cong Lem Ngo, is speaking to us about his research on theorising and examining teacher agency for change and development.
As we are living in a constantly changing world, being able to make change is critical to our own existence and future development. In this process, educational change plays a fundamental role, for better or worse. That's why countries across the globe are spending billions of dollars on educational reform projects, hoping to upgrade the quality of education. However, in contrast to change being often a common slogan, change in reality often turns out to be a complex and difficult phenomenon. In Vietnam, my home country, for example, the government spent almost $500 million on reforming foreign language teaching practices. However, after more than a decade of implementation, the project was considered a failure because it could not generate significant change in teacher everyday classroom teaching. This points out the fact that in order for real change to occur, teachers, as the frontline workers, and their change practices must be understood better. In my study, I looked into how Vietnamese tertiary teachers experience change in their local reform context, probing into their understanding, their emotions, and how they actually realize new curriculum changes in their own classroom. For my data collections, I interviewed teachers, observed the teaching practices, asked them to reflect on their emotions, and analyze policy documents. What I found was a striking differences among teachers in terms of how they understood and responded to the local change. Also, it is interesting to find that although working in a changing environment, the teacher might not be aware of the need to generate new changes. And when they did, they were unsure of how to do it. So my research has implications for a new type of literacy. I call it change literacy, which should be part of pre-service teacher training and teacher professional development programs. Also, drawing on the theory and the findings, a new conceptual framework was proposed for the purpose of optimizing educational reform projects. And it starts with fostering teacher agency in everyday classroom teachings. And my research points out that change is a collective process, but it starts with each one of us. And this resonates with the famous quote from Mahatma Gandhi and also my message from my study: be the change that you wish to see in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Cong. I love the idea of change literacy. What a great term. All right, we'll wait for our judging panel. Okay, joining us from IITB-Monash and their Faculty of Engineering, we have Poornima Vengaprath Bhattathiri here to speak about her research on the alchemy of pineapple waste.
On a pizza or not, I'm sure we all love pineapples. I belong to the pineapple city of India. During one of my visits to the pineapple fields, I see these group of farmers burning a huge chunk of pineapple leaves. When I asked them, they told me that for every ton of pineapple that they produce, about 3 tons of leaves are generated as waste. It's of no use to them. With no scientific waste management systems and with hardly 2 to 3 weeks left for the next harvest, they end up burning this waste, cheapest and easiest way. This causes considerable pollution affecting the health of their community, as dangerous as plastic waste. Globally, 12.6 million tons of pineapple leaves are annually wasted. This can fill 21,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Imagine if all of this is burnt. So there is a need to very quickly but efficiently manage this waste. And this is where my research comes in. I, in fact, do not consider them as waste. For me, these are little treasure pots. I break their structure open using a pre-treatment technique to obtain value-added chemicals. Each of them can be feedstock to million-dollar industries. For instance, the majority of pineapple leaf is made up of a polymer called as cellulose, which is in the form of fibers, And when reduced to nano size, they become so strong, so flexible, yet so lightweight that they can be used for applications ranging from making a packaging film to making interiors of an aircraft. The global nanocellulose market of 2020 was estimated to be $294 million US. And for this extraction, I use a very clean and green hydrothermal assisted technique, which uses water at a specific temperature and pressure, thereby reducing the use of any harsh chemicals to break it. Along with nanocellulose, I also obtain some precursors to prebiotics, some antioxidant compounds which are useful in the cosmetic and biomedical industry, and some fibers which are useful in the textile and leather industry. So I promise you that by the end of my PhD, I will not let any of these leaves go as waste, and maybe the nanocellulose here can make some biodegradable plastic. I would like to conclude by quoting that waste is not waste until we waste it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Poornima. You did make a mistake, though. Everyone knows pineapple on pizza is an abomination. But other than that, and anyone who disagrees can get out now. Okay, all right. Our next candidate from the Faculty of Arts is Jessica Burley, who'll be... I haven't said her topic yet. You might not like it. Don't clap yet. Jessica is researching investigating family violence perpetrators. Does intervention increase accountability?
Family violence impacts 1 in 3 women. The home is the most dangerous place for a woman. This behaviour is predominantly perpetrated by men against women. So what do we do with the perpetrators? Well, typically in Australia we have what's called men's behaviour change programs that are designed to shift beliefs and attitudes from power and control towards equality in a relationship. My PhD followed 43 case studies of men from their initial assessment interview right through to completion of 27 sessions. I wanted to understand to what extent do men's behaviour change programs increase a perpetrator's accountability for his actions. To help answer this question tonight, I'll tell you about 2 men, Flynn and Larry. Part of the data I had access to included abusive behaviour checklists that were completed upon entry and at exit. Initially, many of the men admitted to a series of violent and controlling behaviours. In Flynn's case, he answered yes to 28 abusive behaviours. This included physical violence, choking his wife and forcing her to have sex with him. It also included what we call coercive control tactics. That is the micro-regulation of his wife's everyday life. Towards the end of their time, the majority of men said they no longer engaged in any of this abusive behaviour. In fact, in Flynn's case, he literally answered no to every single question on the exit checklist. But the case notes told a different story. It became clear that the men's individual insight fell on a spectrum of accountability from none, which was Flynn, to some, and in very rare instances, full accountability. Larry was a good example of showing some shift. He came to his 25th session and told the story of his girlfriend coming home on a Friday night having purchased a $30 skirt. He was angry. Money was tight. He thought this was a useless purchase. But then when he thought about it, on his way home, he'd bought a slab of beer and some cigarettes. And when he did the maths in his head, he realised he'd actually spent more money than she had. And he decided he had no right to be angry with her. It's a small example, but it is a shift. In contrast, Flynn continued to deny, justify, and minimise the extent of his violence right the way through. In fact, in his completion report, the caseworkers wrote that they were concerned coercive control was continuing in the form of financial abuse against his ex-wife. So,
Even when abusive behaviour checklists say that abuse is declining, this is not the full picture. My PhD reveals that formal evaluations are problematic because they don't deal with those nuanced shifts in beliefs and attitudes that were often revealed through the words the men used, the stories that they told, like we could see with Larry. My qualitative data provides that crucial context into understanding how and in what ways perpetrators take accountability for their actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Impressive and very important research. Okay, our next candidate is from Monash University's Malaysia campus, coming from the Faculty of Pharmacy. This is Angel Lim, who is here to speak about her research entitled Act Beyond Pink.
We all start life with a single cell. One divides into 2, then 4, then 8. These cell divisions, when we go from a single cells to billions and even trillions of cells, is known as growth. Speaking to growth, most people would think of someone getting taller or maybe later in life, wider. However, cell divisions is not a simple process. When something goes wrong in this process and our body fails to correct it, the rogue cells will quickly divide, form tumors, and spread to all of the body, and this is known as cancer. Cancer has been known as one of the top leading causes of death and killing 10 million people every year. How to save these people? This is the focus of my research. In fact, breast cancer is the most common cancer affecting women. 1 out of 8 women is at risk of developing breast cancer in their lifetime, and among them who has been diagnosed with breast cancer, their survival rate after 5 years is even less than 40%. Are they all dying from breast cancer? Well, some people say that if cancer did not kill you, chemotherapy will. Unfortunately, sometimes this statement is not far from being true. To me, it is a clear sign that we do not have safe and effective medicines to treat breast cancer patients, and this is what I want to change. There are a few types of breast cancers. Some breast cancers, they have specific receptors, and there are 3 types of them. You can imagine these receptors like lock on the doors of cancer cells. The good thing is that we can develop drugs which can act as the keys to these locks to save cancer patients. However, there's one type of breast cancer which has none of these locks, so we call them the triple negative. Triple negative breast cancer cells do not respond to normal chemo drugs, and there are no locks, so we have to break the door open to save cancer patients. Unfortunately, available methods for breaking doors often work like a dynamite, destroying also normal healthy cells. In my research, I developed agents which can enter the house of triple negative breast cancer cells through the window without exploding everything around. By designing and preparing such molecules, I'm sure that I can act beyond wearing a pink ribbon to support and save more patients from this disease. Thank you.
Thank you, Angel. Unfortunately, I'll have to keep wearing a pink ribbon. I cannot do that scientific research, but I'm glad someone's doing something so important. All right, we'll wait for our judges.
Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. Anyways, been figuring me out. Could make you happier now. Usually I put something on TV, so we never think about you and me. Every day I see our reflection, clear in Hollywood, laying on the screen. You just need a better life than these. You need something I can never give. Fake water over gross.
Okay, our very last candidate in the 3-minute thesis tonight is our wildcard entry from the School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences. This is Lian asking, where's MS?
Where's Wally? Can you find Wally among those people with similar clothing? How many of you loved to play this game when you were kids? I, for one, always playing this game to get me nearsighted. Now, let's take a look at the neurologist version of the game. Here are 6 MRI brain images from all kinds of brain disorders, including multiple sclerosis, or as we call it MS, and Parkinson's disease, and epilepsy, and so on. Now the question is, can you tell me which one of this image belongs to the MS patient? This may be very unfair for us non-professionals to answer because they all look so similar. But the truth is, even for experienced neurologists, they always find it challenging to distinguishing between these brain disorders to reach a final diagnosis. In fact, regarding MS alone, up to 10% of all patients who are initially diagnosed with MS are identified as misdiagnosed years after. That is to say, 10% of the 2.8 million MS patients missed the critical time of receiving treatment and suffered from the risk of wrong medication. This is a scenario my research hopes to improve. Now, let's take a look back at our fun Wally game. As a kid, I always painted Wally L in a different color, trying to ruin the fun for other kids. But what if we can do the same thing to our brain images? What if, let's say, we can find a special something that only colors up the MS brains to make it stand out from all other brain disorders? My research focuses on developing this special something, or as we call it, a radioactive tracer. Ideally, when injected into body, our tracer will bind to a special kind of protein that only accumulates in MS brains. And by imaging the binding situation of the tracer, we will have this colorful image here, where red and green shows high density of the tracer. Whereas when injected into patients with other brain disorders, most of our MS-specific tracers will fail to bind or stay, and thus will be washed away by our body, only generating this image here with low density color, blue. And by easily distinguishing between these colors, we will have more direct information in preventing misdiagnosis from happening. Over the past few years, my team have developed 2 generations of the tracers that can selectively color up MS brains from epilepsy and healthy controls in mouse models. Now, it won't be long until we solve the Wally puzzle of the neurological world. Thank you.
Thank you, Lian. Sensational presentation. That concludes our candidates for the 3-minute thesis. Can I ask the audience to give all of them a very big round of applause? Incredibly impressive, all of you. So now here's what's going to happen. Our judges are going to go outside to deliberate without us looking over their shoulders. And while they do that, they only have 5 minutes. While they do that, the rest of us get to vote for the People's Choice Award. So you can do that in 2 ways. One, you can text your favourite person to that number up there, 0480025509, and then you just type, you don't need to write their name, just the number next to the person you like, or you can go to pollv.com/3MT to vote. You're only allowed to vote once, so make it count. You guys can vote for yourselves too if you want. Be shameless. Now is not the time for false modesty. $500 is on the line, ladies and gentlemen. So you've got 5 minutes to do your voting, then the judges will join us, and then we'll go to the Visualise Your Thesis competition.
Written in these walls are the stories that I can't explain. I leave my heart open, but it stays right here empty for days. He told me in the morning he don't feel the same about us in his bones. It seems to me that when I die, these words will be written on my stone. I'll be gone, gone tonight. The ground beneath my feet is open wide. The way that I've been holding on too tight, with nothing in between. The story of my life, I take him home. I try all night to keep him warm in time. It's frozen. Till it's broken side. Story of my life. Written on these walls are the colors that I can't change. Leave my heart open, but it stays right here in its cage. I know that in the morning now I see us in the light up on a hill. Although I am broken, my heart is untamed still. And I'll be gone, gone tonight. The fire beneath my feet is burning bright. The way that I've been holding on so tight, with nothing in between. The story of my life, I take him home. I try all night to keep him warm in time. It's frozen. The story of my life, I give him all. I spend his life until it's broken side. I've been waiting for this time to come around. Baby, running after you is like chasing the clouds. The story of my life, I take him home. I drive all night to keep him warm in time. is frozen. The story of my life, I give him all. I spend his life until it's broke inside. The story of my life, the story of my life. The story of my life. Story of my life.
I know. Are you good for...
How to think about you without it ripping my heart out. And I know you know, we know you weren't down for forever, and it's fine. And I know you know, we know we were meant for each other, and it's fine. But if the world was ending, you come over, right? You come over and you'd stay the night. Would you love me for the hell of it?
Okay, welcome back. We are now entering the Visualise Your Thesis part of the night. This is another competition, and this competition calls for the participants to create an engaging 60-second audio-visual representation of their thesis that can be received by a general audience. Through Visualise Your Thesis, our competitors have developed digital literacy and research communication skills, which have become crucial in today's research landscape. The top 6 entries from this year will be showcased tonight, and the winner will progress to the virtual Visualise Your Thesis international competition in order. Now, the nice thing about all of these being already made is that this has already been judged. This section's already been judged, so I'd like to thank our judges for doing that work. They were Professor Nelly Giorgio Christianos, Professor Mike Ryan and Dr. Nurin Weiss, and in addition to them, we also had Fabian Moroney, the Chief Marketing Officer of Monash University. Unfortunately, Fabian was unable to join us tonight, but he was able to bring his expertise in communications, digital transformation and marketing to the judging panel. So we're now going to begin the showcase of the Visualise Your Thesis presentations. The first presentation that you'll be seeing tonight is from the Faculty of Business and Economics. This is the work of Amna Tariq Shah, and her research asks, why do Jacks and Jills go up the hill to pay their taxes?
This is a story about a compliant taxpayer Jack and the not-so-compliant Jill. One day, Jack and Jill talk about taxes. Something strange happens. Suddenly, Jill decides to become a compliant taxpayer. The next day, Jill tries to do her tax returns, but finds it so hard that she gives up. When she comes across a list of non-compliant taxpayers in the paper, what a shame, she sighs and wonders how she can improve her tax literacy to become compliant. In my research, I'm collecting evidence from Australia and Pakistan. By answering my questions via surveys and interviews, my participants are helping me understand how psychosocial factors influence their tax compliance decisions. When governments fail to meet revenue targets, they raise taxes for everyone. Understanding compliance factors will lead to policies that encourage compliance, so every Jack and Jill pay their fair share.
Thank you, Amna. Okay, our next Visualise Your Thesis contestant is Zoe Duncan from the Faculty of Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences. And Zoe's research is addressing the mental health needs of people who use methamphetamine in Victoria.
Came first, the chicken or the egg? Coincidentally, we can apply this exact same question about people who use methamphetamine and experience anxiety or depression at the same time. Some people use methamphetamine to relieve symptoms of anxiety and depression. Some people begin to experience anxiety or depression for the first time when they begin to use methamphetamine. What we do know is that when substance use and mental health disorders happen at the same time, this creates the perfect storm of poorer health. By understanding the direction of the relationship between methamphetamine use and anxiety or depression, we can devise public health responses which best meets the needs of these people. For example, we could focus on risk prevention strategies or transdiagnostic treatments, or we might want to prioritise treatment of one condition over the other. Ultimately, I would like my research to offer hope, both to people who use methamphetamine and experience anxiety or depression, and hope for the clinicians who will work with them.
Okay, our next competitor is Yvette Raymond, also from the Faculty of Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences. And Yvette's research is on the rat trap, prenatal cell-free DNA screening for rare autosomal trisomies.
Since the introduction of prenatal screening, we have been seeking ways to better improve the detection of fetal chromosomal anomalies. Amongst the most recent developments is cell-free DNA screening using maternal blood. This method performs well for the three most common chromosome trisomies, but less is known about its performance with other chromosomes. In my research, we examined the screening performance for rare trisomies of autosomal chromosomes, or rats. We found that of all the high-risk results for a rat, a very small proportion of fetuses were actually affected. But where did these rats come from? We theorised that when the fetus was unaffected, these rats may have arisen from the placenta. So what impact could possible placental trisomy have on pregnancy? Upon investigation, we found that positive rat screening results were associated with an increased frequency of fetal growth restriction. Thereby, there may be indication for more careful growth monitoring of these pregnancies, despite a genetically typical fetus.
Our next contestant is a man familiar to all of you because he was in the last round. Arman Pili from the Faculty of Science is back again. This man is clearly a very efficient worker. His animation tonight is called Veer Toad, giving scientists and conservation managers an edge over cane toad invasions.
Invasive alien species are non-native animals and plants whose invasions wreak havoc on the environment and societies. A globally notorious alien invader is the cane toad. Wherever it goes, a cane toad brings weapons of environmental destruction, poison packed on its shoulders. In Australia, the cane toad's invasion has poisoned and killed millions of wildlife, pushing them to extinction. To aid in the fight against cane toad invasions, I designed VYT, a computer simulation game where the player's mission is to develop the most efficient and low-cost strategy for controlling cane toad invasions. By playing VYT, wildlife conservationists can make informed management decisions. But ultimately, anyone can play VYT, so they can understand and be inspired to join the fight against cane toad invasions and conserve our wildlife.
Our next candidate tonight is Angela Fan, also from the Faculty of Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences. And Angela's research is focusing on what's important.
Humans are visual animals, and we see a lot in our day-to-day lives. This visual information is sent to the brain, used to form conscious thoughts, feelings, experiences, and memories. The frontal lobe of your brain is working hard all day, every day, processing the wealth of information that comes from your eyes. However, not all of this visual information is important, and processing every single thing that we see would be far too overwhelming. Thankfully, our brain has a gating mechanism in place, allowing us to only focus on what's important and filter out what's not. This is selective visual attention. My PhD project looks at the role of the pulvina, a deep brain structure which we think is responsible for gating. By studying the brain's sensory gatekeeper and the biology of attention, we can hopefully understand and better manage attention deficit disorders in the future.
And our last candidate in the Visualise Your Thesis presentation tonight is from the Faculty of Engineering. It's Maven Ekanayaka, who is looking at making MRI faster.
Imagine you met with an accident, or you were injured, or you have chronic pain. Your doctor would likely prescribe an MRI scan. MRI, or magnetic resonance imaging, provides the most accurate 3D images inside your body. A full scan, however, could easily take up to 30 minutes. But in a critical condition, 30 minutes could make the difference between life and death. If we could somehow make MRI faster, that could make a huge impact. With the help of artificial intelligence, we developed a technology which could reduce the scan duration of MRI by 10 times. Integrating our technology with the modern MRI scanners would allow more scans per day, avoid long wait lists in hospitals, save plenty of time and money in the healthcare system, and most importantly, save lives.
All right, the moment we've all been waiting for, when our participants get their participation certificate. I would now, and no, we are going to do the winners as well. I would now like to invite Professor Nali Giorgio Christianis to come up to first award the Visualise Your Thesis participants with their certificates and then award their prize. Okay, if we could please have Amna Tariq Shah to come and receive her certificate.
Well done. Stand up. Thank you.
Next up, who is attending via Zoom is Zoe Duncan. So everyone look up there. Oh. Zoe, oh, there she is. Hi, Zoe. Well done. Our next candidate is Yvette Raymond. Congratulations. Our next candidate is Arman Pili. Angela Fan. And finally, Maven Ekanayaka.
Thank you. Wow, what an incredible job you guys have done. Really, really impressive. I'd like to thank you all for participating. We were incredibly overwhelmed and impressed by the digital skill set that you guys used. And we'd like to congratulate each and every one of you for the work that you do and the impact that your research makes more broadly in our community. Absolutely fantastic. So each of the finalists have taken a different approach, as you've all seen, to highlight the significance of their research and make it accessible to a broad audience like this one and the ones and individuals that are on the screen with us today. And it's not an easy feat to do that visually, creatively, and, you know, judging this, I found it absolutely really difficult, as did the other judges. So it is a really incredible effort that you guys have done. So I'm now pleased to announce the placings for the Visualise Your Thesis 2022. And the third place goes to Arman Pili. Congratulations. Wonderful effort, fantastic job. Okay, the second place goes to Angela Fan. Well done, congratulations. And the first place goes to Mevan Ekanyake. Congratulations, fantastic. Wonderful, thanks so very much.
Congratulations to all of you. Okay, now you guys can all have a seat. Well done. Now we'll move on to the 3-minute thesis. First, everyone will be given a certificate and then we will announce the winners. So our first participant was Ilianna Ginnis.
Congratulations.
Annie Lua.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Michelle Escobar.
Congratulations.
Dan Gilbert.
Congratulations, Dan.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sophie Armstrong.
Congratulations, Dan.
Arman Pili.
Congratulations.
Rana Sawires.
Congratulations, Rana.
Ruchi Sembey.
Congratulations.
Cong Lem Ngo.
Congratulations.
Poornima Vengaprath Bhattathiri.
Congratulations.
Jessica Burley.
Congratulations.
Angel Lim.
Congratulations.
And Lian.
Well done. Congratulations. Okay. Thank you. Okay, well, What do I say? You guys are incredible, absolutely incredible, outstanding. So I'd like to firstly say how exciting this is to return to the live format of the 3-minute thesis. And it was a really challenging decision that the judges and all of us had to make. So I want to start by saying how proud I am standing here on stage beside all of you. It's absolutely incredible. So today, as we've all seen, we've had representation from all our faculties as well as our international campuses. It's fantastic. Malaysia, IITB, absolutely incredible. So thank you for participating. I've watched with immense pride the quality of the research that our students are undertaking, and not only the students here, but all of our students across the university. And we have over 5,500 HDR students, so that is an incredible number of students that Monash University has. The impact that all of you are making to our society and to the global challenges worldwide is incredible, and we look forward to seeing you all as you flourish and graduate and then go on to your careers. So, yeah, where are we? Well, we are at that end of the today's session where we are about to announce the winners. As I said, it was a challenge for us. But before I announce the winner and the runner-up, I'd like to invite Radik Ramohan, who is the president of the Monash Graduate Association, to come to the stage to announce the People's Choice Award. And the People's Choice Award has been won by Arman Pili from the Faculty of Science. Thank you. Well done, congratulations. And that is your vote, so excellent to see. Okay, now we are at the runner-up. The 3-minute thesis runner-up is Sophie Armstrong from the Faculty of Engineering. Congratulations. Wonderful. There you go. Thank you. And the winner of the 3-minute thesis that takes away this amazing cheque, $5,000, what a huge amount of money, I'm pleased to announce that is Rana Sawires from the Faculty of Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences. Congratulations to you. That is incredible. Congratulations. And obviously you go to represent Monash. So congratulations, really fabulous. Don't forget the novelty cheque. And we'll take a photo of the cheque. This is yours. You take this cheque. Why don't we get another photo of the cheque? It's a big one. That is yours to take. Hope you can fit it in your car. Wonderful. Thank you so very much.
Good luck cashing that.
All right. Now, of course, such an event has many contributions, and I'd like to extend my thanks to a number of you here today. I'd like to thank all the students that participated in the competition from all our faculties, all our campuses at the local level. There's a lot of effort that goes into doing this, and it's not just the students you see here, but all of those that went through that competition process. So congratulations to all of you for putting yourselves forward. It's a real great privilege that you've gone through. All the professional, faculty, professional and academic staff and the judges at those local levels for supporting the competitions. We'd like to extend our thanks to all of you. The library team, Megan Deacon and Patrick Splower Neyman for the Visualise Your Thesis compliance checks. Believe it or not, there are a lot of compliance checks that we have to go through in order to meet copyright rules and regulations and all of that type of thing. So thank you to the library for doing such a wonderful job. My colleagues on the 3-minute thesis and Visualise Your Thesis judging panel, Mike Ryan, Noreen Weiss, Alison Ross, and Fabian Moroney, who's not here with us today. Thank you so much for taking the time. It's great to have you, so thank you so much. Our 3-minute thesis wildcard and Visualise Your Thesis shortlisting judging panel, Michelle Lopez, Sharon Ricardo, who's here, and David Gronegagen from the library. Thank you so very much for participating as judges. Now, of course, these types of events cannot go ahead in the splendour that they do without the wonderful support of the team within the Monash Graduate Research Office, who do an absolutely incredible job of bringing all of this together, organising the catering, organising the checks, organising the certificates, organising us as judges, and they do that brilliantly. So we want to thank you all. It is an incredible effort that you have put in particular, Jessica Newman, Rebecca Hutton, Renata Diaz, and of course the wonderful Michelle Kett over here. So thank you very much, and a big round of applause. I also would like to thank Monash staff external to graduate research who've supported us, including Mark Roberto, for all your hard work behind the scenes. Mark, thank you. Mark's up there. So again, without Mark, none of the visuals can happen. So he does a brilliant job, as always, supporting all of us. So thank you. As well as making the hybrid event possible. Thank you all for coming in person and also joining in your homes virtually. It is wonderful to have your support here of all our graduate research students at Monash. And finally, last but not least, to our amazing MC, Susan Carlin. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's all right.
Wonderful to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
And this is a small gift just to show our appreciation. Thank you so much, and I'll now hand over to you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for these chocolates. So what is next? I'm sure you're all wondering. Well, Rana, we're sending you overseas. We don't know where yet. It has not yet been announced. Maven, you're staying at home in front of a computer. Unfortunately, the Visualise Your Thesis competition is virtual this year, so we can't send you anywhere. But the pressure of the entire university now rests on both of your shoulders. So don't embarrass us. Come home with the trophy. But in all seriousness, to all of you here, it's important that you know that both competitions, the Visualise Your Thesis global competition and the 3-minute thesis, both of them offer awards for the most viewed entry. So we need your help to make sure that Maven and Rana's videos have the most clicks. So please go and give them a lot of views. Congratulations to all of our amazing finalists, the winners, everyone, and thank you all for attending. Hopefully see you next year.